Imagine waking up in a land where kings are beheaded, empires rise from nothing, invaders arrive by sea bringing fire and death, and a small island on the edge of Europe becomes the most powerful nation on Earth. It sounds like fiction, but this is the true story of England. And the most incredible part is that it all began with bloodshed, betrayal, and wars that changed the destiny of the world forever. What you're about to discover is not just the history of a nation. It is the story of how an island surrounded by water managed to dominate entire continents, create legendary rulers, survive devastating invasions, and build an empire on which the sun never set. But there is one detail that almost nobody knows. England stood on the brink of total destruction several times, and each time something unbelievable happened. Thousands of years ago, long before castles, queens, and famous English cities existed, the region was inhabited by mysterious Celtic tribes. They lived deep within forests, performed ancient rituals, and believed spirits lived within nature itself. Their world seemed eternal, but that peace would come to a brutal end. In 43 AD, one of the most powerful armies in history crossed the sea. The Roman legions arrived like a storm. Organized, disciplined, and nearly unstoppable, the Romans conquered much of the island. Roads appeared where forests once stood. Cities began to rise. Massive fortifications were built. For the first time, England became part of something far greater, the Roman Empire. For nearly 4 centuries, Rome controlled the land. But then the unimaginable happened. The mighty empire began to collapse. Roman legions were recalled to defend the heart of the empire. When they left, they created a dangerous power vacuum. That vacuum opened the door to a new age of chaos. Germanic tribes known as the Angles, Saxons, and Jutes crossed the sea and invaded the island. They did not come to negotiate. They came to conquer. Villages were destroyed. Kingdoms rose and fell. War became part of everyday life. And from these invaders came the very name England, the land of the Angles. But an even greater storm was approaching. Centuries later, strange ships appeared on the horizon. Massive warriors stepped ashore carrying axes, swords, and a terrifying reputation. They were the Vikings. To many people living in England, they seemed like demons emerging from the sea. Monasteries were looted, cities burned, entire communities vanished. The Viking attacks were so devastating that many believed England's days were numbered. Then one man changed everything. His name was Alfred the Great. Alfred was not only a warrior, he was a brilliant strategist. When many thought England was doomed, he organized resistance. He fought battle after battle. He suffered crushing defeats. He nearly lost everything. But he never surrendered. His victory against the Vikings did more than save a kingdom. It laid the foundation for the England that would one day emerge. And if you think the story becomes less dramatic from here, think again. In the year 1066, one of the most important events in English history took place. A Norman duke named William crossed the English Channel determined to seize the throne. The decisive clash happened at the famous Battle of Hastings. What was at stake was far more than a crown. It was the future of England itself. The battle was brutal. Arrows darkened the sky. Swords clashed in blood-soaked fields. When the fighting ended, William had won. From that moment forward, everything changed. The language evolved. The culture transformed. Stone castles began appearing across the land. England entered a completely new era. But royal power would soon face its first major challenge. In 1215, a group of rebellious nobles forced King John to sign a document that would change history forever, the Magna Carta. At the time, few people understood how important it would become. For the first time, a king formally acknowledged that his power was not absolute. This revolutionary idea would later influence democracies, constitutions, and governments around the world. Meanwhile, England continued to grow. Wars with France became frequent. Kings sought more land, more influence, and greater glory. These ambitions eventually led to the legendary 100 Years' War. Heroes emerged, legends were born, but disaster soon followed. The Black Death swept across Europe like a nightmare. Millions died, entire villages disappeared. Fear consumed the population. Many believed the end of the world had arrived. Yet England endured, and soon it would enter one of the most violent chapters in its history. The Wars of the Roses plunged the country into decades of internal conflict. Powerful noble families fought for control of the throne. Betrayal became common. Friends became enemies overnight. Kings were overthrown. Princes vanished. The kingdom seemed trapped in endless bloodshed, until a new dynasty emerged, the Tudors, and with them came one of the most famous rulers in world history, Henry VIII. Few kings have left a greater mark on England. At first admired, Henry eventually transformed the nation's religious structure forever. Unable to obtain the annulment he desired, he broke ties with the Catholic Church. He created the Church of England. The consequences were enormous. Religious conflict exploded. Persecutions followed. Society became deeply divided. After Henry, another extraordinary ruler would take center stage, Elizabeth I. Her reign became known as a golden age. Culture flourished. Trade expanded. England began establishing itself as a global power, and during her reign came one of the most dramatic moments in English history. The mighty Spanish Armada was approaching. Spain was the most powerful empire on earth. If Spain won, England's future could be completely rewritten. But against all odds, England triumphed. It was a historic victory, and a clear sign that a new world power was rising. Over the centuries that followed, England accumulated wealth, influence, and military strength. But once again, chaos erupted. Civil war broke out. On one side stood the king, on the other stood Parliament. The conflict became so intense that it resulted in something almost unimaginable. King Charles I was tried and executed. The sight of a monarch losing his head shocked Europe. For several years, England ceased to be a monarchy. But the experiment did not last forever. The monarchy returned. Yet it would never be the same. Parliament emerged stronger. The foundations of modern government grew deeper. Then came the Industrial Revolution. And at that moment, England changed not only its own destiny, it changed the destiny of humanity. Machines replaced manual labor. Factories appeared everywhere. Railways connected cities. Production exploded. The world entered a new age. The small island was now leading a transformation that would reshape civilization itself. As wealth and technology expanded, the British Empire spread across the globe. Territories in the Americas, Africa, Asia, and Oceania came under British control. The empire became so vast that people said the sun never set upon it. England had reached an unprecedented level of power, but no empire remains at the top forever. The 20th century brought enormous challenges. 2 world wars devastated the planet. During World War II, England faced perhaps its darkest hour. German bombs rained down on cities. Air raid sirens echoed daily. Thousands sought shelter underground. An invasion seemed inevitable, but once again, England refused to surrender. The leadership of Winston Churchill became a symbol of courage. The population endured unimaginable hardship, and that resilience helped change the course of the war. When the conflict ended, the world had changed forever. The empire slowly began to dissolve. Many colonies gained independence. England was no longer the undisputed center of global power, yet its influence remained immense. Its language became international. Its institutions inspired governments worldwide. Its culture spread across every continent, and its history continued to captivate millions. Perhaps the most remarkable fact of all is how often England stood on the edge of destruction, invaded by Romans, attacked by Vikings, conquered by Normans, divided by civil wars, bombed during world wars, and yet, somehow, it survived. Every generation faced challenges that seemed impossible. Every era brought crises that could have destroyed the nation. Yet time and again, England found a way forward. Maybe that is what makes its story so fascinating. It is not simply a list of kings, battles, and dates. It is a story of survival, a story of transformation, a story of resilience, a story that helped shape the modern world. And now I want to hear from you. What do you think was the most incredible moment in England's history? The resistance against the Vikings, the defeat of the Spanish Armada, the Industrial Revolution, or surviving World War II? Leave your answer in the comments below because I read as many as I can. And if you enjoyed this journey through one of the most extraordinary stories ever told, make sure to hit the like button right now. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss our next epic historical adventure. Because history has proven one thing over and over again. Sometimes the greatest empires are born in the places nobody expected to survive.